Ah, Aristotle, my once devoted student, still clinging to the shadows of the cave I see. You insist on staring at the ground, counting the pebbles, while I beckon you to gaze at the stars, the eternal forms that govern all reality. Stars? Plato? Really? Must you always point to the heavens as if they hold all the answers? I prefer to keep my feet firmly on the earth, where actual things exist. Things I can touch, observe, and understand. Your forms are like ghosts, flitting about in some imaginary realm. How can you claim to know anything about reality when you ignore the very world we live in? Plato, smirking and with a hint of amusement. Ah, the empiricist speaks. Tell me, Aristotle, when you observe a horse, do you see the true essence of horseness, or just a collection of accidental traits? Without the form of the horse, how can you even recognize it as a horse? Your so-called substantial forms are mere shadows of my perfect eternal forms. Aristotle, sharply and with rising intensity. Shadows? Perfect? Plato, your forms are a philosophical cop-out. You invent a realm of perfection to avoid the messy, beautiful complexity of the real world. My forms are not shadows. They are the very essence of things, embedded within them. A horse is a horse because it has the form of a horse within it, not because it's chasing some imaginary ideal in your celestial zoo. Plato, chuckling lightly, almost mockingly. A zoo, you say? How droll. But tell me, if your forms are so embedded, as you claim, why do they change? Why does a horse grow old, get sick, and die? My forms are eternal, unchanging, and knowable only through reason. Yours are as fleeting as the seasons. How can you build a philosophy on such shifting sand? Aristotle, leaning in, and with a voice full of passion. Shifting sand? At least my philosophy is grounded in observation, not wild speculation. You sit in your ivory tower, spinning tales of perfect forms, while I'm out here cataloging plants, dissecting animals, and studying the stars. Actual stars, not your abstract fantasies. If your forms are so perfect, why can't they explain why a horse has 4 legs, or why a triangle has 3 sides? You're all theory, no substance, Plato, raising an eyebrow with a challenging tone. Substance, you say? Ah, yes, the great Aristotle, the collector of facts, the cataloger of beetles. Tell me, does your endless data gathering bring you any closer to understanding the good? Or are you content to wallow in the particulars, never grasping the universal truths that give them meaning? Aristotle, with a touch of sarcasm and annoyance. The good? Don't get me started on your obsession with the good. You speak of it as if it's some mystical entity floating above us, when in reality, the good is found in the actions of living, breathing humans. Happiness, eudaimonia, is not some abstract ideal. It's the result of virtuous activity, of living well in the world. Your philosopher-kings may sit around contemplating the good, but who's actually running the city? Who's ensuring justice and harmony? Plato, smiling slyly, almost knowingly. Ah, yes, your famous practical ethics. Tell me, Aristotle, if virtue is merely a mean between extremes, as you claim, how do you decide what's too much or too little? Is courage just the midpoint between cowardice and recklessness? How very mathematical of you. But life is not a numbers game, my dear student. True virtue comes from understanding the forms, from aligning one's soul with the good. Only then can one achieve true harmony. Aristotle, throwing up his hands in exasperation and frustration. Harmony? You speak of harmony, yet your republic is a dystopia. Philosopher-kings with no private property, children raised communally, women shared among the rulers. What kind of harmony is that? It's a recipe for chaos. My polity, on the other hand, is based on real human nature, not some utopian fantasy. People thrive in communities, not in your rigid authoritarian hierarchy. Plato, leaning on his staff with a twinkle in his eye and a calm demeanor. Ah, the famous political animal speaks. But tell me, Aristotle, if man is so naturally political, why do your beloved democracies so often descend into mob rule? Your polity is just a compromise, a concession to human weakness. My republic is an ideal, a vision of what could be if only we were ruled by reason, not by the whims of the masses. Aristotle, grinning wryly, and with a touch of sarcasm. An ideal, Plato? Or a delusion? You criticize democracy. Perhaps your disdain for the many blinds you to their potential. My polity may be a compromise, but at least it's achievable. Your republic is a beautiful dream, but dreams don't build cities. Plato, softly, with a hint of sadness and longing. And yet, my dear Aristotle, dreams inspire. They lift us beyond the mundane, beyond the limitations of the here and now. Without vision, without the pursuit of the ideal, we are no better than the beasts you so love to study. Aristotle, pausing, then smiling faintly and with a tone of understanding. And without observation, without understanding the world as it is, we are no better than poets spinning tales. Perhaps, Plato, the truth lies somewhere between us. Between the heavens and the earth. Between the ideal and the real. Plato, nodding slowly with a tone of acceptance. Perhaps, my student. But until you learn to look beyond the pebbles at your feet, you will never see the stars. As Aristotle, grinning with a playful, challenging tone, and until you learn to see the beauty in the pebbles, you will never understand the world. The two philosophers fall silent, the tension easing as they share a rare moment of mutual respect. The debate is far from over, but for now, they walk on together, their laughter echoing through the olive groves.